Hello everyone, this is Brendan, and this is going to be our first video on percentages. So first we're going to discuss what a percent is. Percent, as we can see, is a word that is comprised of two parts. We can see the word per and the word cent. Per means divide, cent means 100. So percent simply means to divide by 100. So if you were to write 80%, that simply just means 80 divided by 100. So this would equal 80 over 100, or that's equal to 0.80. So pretty straightforward. You probably know what that is at this point. Another way to think of a percentage is to think of it as a part out of a whole. So if you're trying to figure out what percent something is of something else, you're just trying to figure out, okay, what part is that of the total whole? And you can set it up as a ratio where their percentage is up here given by x over 100. So your part over your whole is just a ratio to x over 100 if you want to get the percentage. So a problem might say something like you have 5 oranges, 7 apples, and 10 plums. And the question might ask you, what percentage of the fruit are oranges? Well, we're trying to figure out what percent are oranges. We know that there are 5 oranges over the whole is 100 is equal to, 5 oranges over the whole, which is the sum of the oranges, 5 plus 7 plus 10 gives us 22, is equal to what percent? So that's what percent right there, x over 100. So we take 5, we divide it by 22, and then we multiply it by 100, and let's see what that gives us. It's not going to be an even number. So here's my little Windows calculator. 5 divided by 22 times 100. So we can see that our percentage here would be 22.72%. So this leads us to x is equal to 22.72%. So pretty straightforward so far. I promise you it's going to get a little bit harder as we go down. But I'm assuming most people know what that is. The next concept that's going to be covered in this percentages video is this idea of a percent increase or percent decrease. So we know if we're just increasing something, we're adding to it. If we're decreasing something, we're subtracting to it. So this is going to be percent increase and percent decrease. For the SAT, you do need to know these equations. So please write them down, memorize them. They're very important to understand. So let's give you a little bit of intuition on this. If we're increasing something by some percent, it just makes sense that we're taking our original value, whatever we started with, and we're adding something new to it, and we come up with a final value that is larger than our initial value. So the way that I'm going to write this is that final is equal to, you could say initial, you could say original, just something that means your starting value or starting amount, plus, and this is important, your percent increase over 100 times your initial value. So what I can see is that I'm taking whatever my original amount was, and then I'm increasing it by the percent increase over 100 times the initial. And it's important to know that this right here, this whole boxed in method, can just be thought of as the net increase. And what I mean by that is, let's say I increase 10 by 20%. So let's see what happens when I do that. Use a different color. So if I'm increasing 10 by 20%, my final value is going to equal my initial value, which is 10, plus my percent increase over 100 times my initial value, which is again 10. So those cancel there, and then those cancel. So we can see that the final value would equal 12. So what was my net increase? Well, I can see that I started at 10 and I went to 12, so my net increase would be 2, whereas my percent increase was 20%. So just very important to keep those two different parts in mind. Let's do another one just with percent decrease. For this one, I'm going to give another example. So let's say we're at a store and we're selling a table, and the table costs $200. The table then goes on sale at a 25% discount. So 25% discount. Well, we know discount is a reduced price. If you were going to a store sale, you wouldn't expect to pay more on that date. You would expect to pay something less. So we know that it's going to be some kind of decrease. And this formula is completely analogous to the formula that you see above, where your final value is, again, going to equal your initial value. Initial keypad is messing up. Okay, let's see if that's better now. So your final value is going to equal your initial value minus your percent decrease over 100 times your initial value. We can see this formula is essentially identical to the percent increase equation, just we're subtracting if we're going down, so that should make sense. So if it starts at 200 but then it goes on a 25% discount, we could do 200 minus 25 over 100 times that 200. Order of operation tells us we do this part first. Let's say final is F. So those cancel, 25 times 2 is 50. 200 minus 50 is 150. So once I've had that $200 and I've reduced it by 25%, I come up with a final value of 150. The next type of percentages problem that I want to cover here very quickly, I'm going to go back up to the top here. I'm going to erase this. So let's take this, make it color, and okay, never mind, that's not going to work. So I'm just going to do it up here in this space over to the right. So what I'm going to do at this point is kind of a series of increases and decreases. So let's say we have that table, and that table starts out at $250. The store then puts it on sale for a 25% discount. We then find out that on top of that 25% discount, employees can take 10% off the price. So 10% employee discount. And that discount is off of the price after it's already been discounted. You'll see why that's important in a minute. So if we look at this and you see, okay, $250, there's a 25% discount, there's a 10% discount. Well, that must simply be the same thing as a 35% discount. If you think that way, you're slightly mistaken on this problem. So what we have to do is first decrease 250 by 25%, and then the employees get 10% off of that price. They're not getting 10% off the 250, but they're getting 10% off of the reduced count. Businesses tend to be frugal about that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take $250, we're going to subtract the 25% over 100 times the 250 in order to figure out the percent decrease. 25 times 250 is 6250. 250 minus 6250 would be $187.50. Now it's at this point that the employees get an additional 10% off. So in the next one, my original or my initial cost prior to the 10% discount will be $187. And then I'm going to subtract 10% over 100 times 187.50. So that cancels. Decimal place gets moved 1 to the left. So this becomes 18750 minus 18.75, and that's going to give you, that's going to give you 160. See, minus 19 would be So $168 times minus 9 would be $8.75. Let me just double check that. I'm not completely sure. So 187.5 minus 18.75, 168.75. Yep. Okay. So this was your kind of basic introduction. The most important thing for you to remember with regards to the SAT at this point is that your percent increase and your percent decrease equations, which I've given right at the top here and then right down at the bottom in purple, you need to memorize those. Very important. And then also just, start to get an idea that if you decrease a price and then you decrease again, that's different. You don't just add the percentages, but you have to do two separate steps.